and today we're going to be talking about waxing. So we get so many questions about applying wax, and you are probably wondering this yourself. So I got my board here from last week where we did our smooth finish. So you can really see, because this is super absorbent, how the wax is going to work. So the first question people say is, should I use a towel or should I use a brush? And I'm going to just show you because I think that is going to help more than me just explaining it. I'll still talk about it, but I want to show you. And then the next question is, if I use a brush, what kind of brush? So I'm going to show you that as well. So I'm using our Jolie wax. If you use another brand of wax, that's fine. With our Jolie paint, we like the Jolie wax, and if you haven't tried it, it really is amazing. It has no odor. It just smells like wax. It smells like an unscented candle. It's awesome. It's non-toxic, non-hazardous, great for working around kids. Highly recommend it. So I'm going to use a towel to start out with. And put some wax on here, and I'm going to start rubbing it in. And I need to put that wax in there. And I'm going to need to turn my towel and wipe that off. And I'll do another little section. And I'm rubbing it in. You really need to rub it in well. And it's hard to know what your cloth is absorbing versus what your piece is absorbing. So you can see it takes a little time to rub this in. And because this is a little bit rough, even though my cloth is lint-free, I have to really, rub vigorously to get it to soak into my paint. So I'm getting a couple little fuzzies in there, which is not awesome on the dark surface. Now you're not going to notice that on a lighter surface, and it's going to buff out later, but it's still kind of annoying. So, it takes a while for it to do that. Now on a flat surface, it's really not a super big deal to use a cloth, but it is a lot more difficult when you're talking about getting into corners, anything that's got any kind of detail to it. So we have so many people doing kitchen cabinets, and if you have a mitered corner in your cabinet, how do you get the wax in there? It's either you're gonna shove too much in there, or you're not gonna be able to get it back out. So we like using a brush. So I'm gonna show you this brush. So this is the Jolie wax brush, and I love this brush. I personally like it for applying the brown and black wax, but for clear, I like using a different brush, and I'm gonna show you why. So I need to get my brush on here, and I'm going to basically paint it on my surface. And now I need to use my cloth to rub it in, and I gotta turn my cloth to wipe off my excess, okay? So although I can get into my corners and things a little bit easier with this, you're basically just painting it on. You need to make sure you have enough on the surface, and then you need to rub it in down into the paint with your cloth, flip your cloth, and pull that excess off, okay? So that is with that brush. I'm gonna finish getting this here. It really doesn't matter which direction you move in, it's just Okay, I like using this flat wax brush. This is a waxing brush from Coda Artisans, and I like this brush because it massages the wax down into the paint for you and does a lot of the work for you with the least amount of waste. I don't have to rub in my wax with a towel. I can just remove the excess. So I'm rubbing it in to my surface here. It's rubbing in. So I can go a little further with it. I've rubbed it in, and now all I have to do is just wipe off my excess. So it goes a little more quickly, and you have a little bit less waste. Again, I'm just rubbing it in, and I work in sections like this So again, now this is, if you remember, if you watched last week's episode, this is a piece of plywood. So it is not only soaking into the paint, but it's also soaking into a little bit of that plywood too. So I'm going to definitely use a little bit more wax on this than if I had a previously finished piece that we just painted on top of. And I'm just going to rub this in. And I'm not worried about overlap marks with the clear wax. It's just going to soak in where it needs to and come back off where it's already soaked in. So now I am done with that. If I want a little bit more sheen and I want to kind of even out my application for that really smooth finish, this was the smooth finish that we had done, I'm going to get a piece of sandpaper here and I can use, fold this in half, I like using a small piece because it gives me a lot more control. And then I'm going to tri-fold it. And I'm putting this over the wax. And this is totally optional. You don't have to sand it. But my board's a little rough because I was painting over the plywood. And this is going to get my little fuzzies off. It's going to give a lot smoother feel to it. And I'm going to let my hand tell me how much sanding I need to do. Where it feels a little rough, I can go back over it.
What grit are you using?
Smoother. I'm using 220 on this because it feels very fuzzy. Over most pieces, I would use like a 320 or a 400 if I don't want to distress it. So, but this is very rough, so I am going ahead and using the 220. Good question. So Heidi, like come over here and just feel the difference for our audience.
Oh, big difference.
Huge, right?
Much smoother. Mm-hmm.
And you saw I wasn't putting a lot of effort into it. I'm really just kind of getting the fuzz off, but I'm not taking off that much paint. I'm really just smoothing it out. So I'm going to do that on this side as well. So it's a very quick sand. So here's the other thing I want you to notice. This is really interesting. You'll see I have a lot more white or light gray on this side and less on this side because my wax is absorbed more into this one where I'm taking off a little bit more paint in this because there's actually a little bit less wax on this piece than this piece that has soaked in, although it doesn't feel waxy, right?
Not at all.
It's just more absorbed because of the brush that I used. So, you know, here it absorbed a little bit. We had to kind of work it to help it absorb. Here, the brush really helped it absorb down into there, so it's soaked in more than just sitting on top of there. Yeah, feels really good now. Good, good, good. So now I'm going to put a second coat of wax on. And I'll do the same kind of technique so you can see the difference in here. You know, this is going to go on a little bit nicer on the second coat, but again, you know, I can see the color change of where it's rubbing in and how much effort I need to put in. And I'm going to turn it to take off my excess. And again here, you can really notice the color change as it's soaking in to know whether or not you're getting that wax down into the paint. And then wipe off my excess. All right, I'm going to do this coat now. Just painting it on my surface. And now I need to rub it in with my cloth. I need to turn and get my excess until I've got a lot on my surface. There. It's just sitting on top right now, so now I have to rub it in. Rubbing it in, and then I'm going to wipe off my excess. That feels pretty good now. All right, and then on the contrast, here's the waxing brush. A little bit bigger section. And now we have a pretty even application of wax on here. If you want to buff it up and give it more of a sheen, then you can buff it with a cloth. Or we can buff it with a buffing brush. Are you able to see any of that shine on there? A little bit, huh? Let me come get a buffing brush, please. There's one sitting right back there. I'm sorry, I should have grabbed one of those. Thank goodness for helpers. I'll have to run away. Thank you, perfect. And then this is a buffing brush. Can you see how, when I was doing that it changed? What's that sheen there? Here is our finish. So we have, two different ways of doing the smooth finish, two different ways of applying the wax. There's not a right or a wrong answer. It really is what you're comfortable doing, what you like, what works best for you. I tend to like this brush for the clear wax, but it really is what works best for you is what you should use. So, any questions? We welcome them. If you're watching this on replay, I will check back. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.